And on today's show, how the economic impact of a care event can affect the ones you love. Part 4 of this week's series on why long-term care coverage is essential with long-term care expert Maria Sargent. Hi everyone, I'm Steve Savant, syndicated financial columnist and contributing author and a backroom technician in Innsmouth. Let's get down to business. Well, welcome to day 4, Maria.
Already, thank you.
I know. Are you having fun?
I am. It's been wonderful.
Well, I'm telling you, I'm getting shock and awe because I'm trying to introduce long-term care. The vast amount of our audience is very much engaged in retirement planning. So we're adding a whole new module to their thinking. And many of them, they say, Steve, this is my first introduction, this is my first pass. And it may be overwhelming. And that's why we have tremendous support, our sponsor, people that take care of you. They're going to be able to help you and walk you through this. And there's experts out there that only do long-term care.
True.
This is the kind of thing you want to say, I need to make a strategic alliance with another advisor that does this 24/7. I want to talk about the impact of a care event, though, because until you see the numbers that we see on a regular basis, and there are stats out on Google where you can say long-term care statistics, and it'll tell you who's staying at home, who's using nursing home, what are the age groups, what's the cost effectiveness. If you need to build a really good argument, and I think it's an excellent argument, there's tremendous sources out there. Talk a little bit about, though, when we're talking about the real impact, it can be harmful to your retirement if you have to pay this out of your own pocket.
So we know that average cost of care in the country today is about $6,000 a month. Average. That's what someone will pay for care in their own home or private care in a facility, but $6,000 a month. So when folks come to me and they look at a premium for a solution where they shift a lot of the risk off of themselves, they're looking at insurance solutions, which we should feel really proud of these insurance solutions that are out there today. They're different than what we've seen before, but they are built for today's consumer. They're built to carry us into the future. And when we look at average cost for a premium of a long-term care policy and compare that to the cost of what someone would pay out of pocket, it's astounding to me, truly astounding, that someone wouldn't say, well, let me see what my options are. Let me understand what I can do so my money can work harder for me.
Well, this impact is huge, and it can really make your lifestyle, it could change your lifestyle overnight. So we want to prepare for this and figure out how I can at least anticipate I'm going to have some kind of event and then try to price my life to it. Because to me, I think this is something that advisors always try to do. We try to accommodate. We're into indemnification. We're into trying to protect against risk. We're trying to figure out if that risk occurs. We know it will happen for over 70% of most seniors. This is already a truth. The longer we live, I think it's going to exacerbate those numbers and bring it up into the 80s. So it's not, am I going to have an event?
Right.
The odds are so high, I will have an event.
Right.
So the probability of that and the impact of it. Talk a little about these numbers, because you have a couple of numbers that are pretty good.
I thought it might be helpful to at least look at some scenarios for a typical client. I'm going to really focus here on a 60-year-old female client, one who's making annual premium payments to a shift the risk solution, a long-term care insurance plan, where the premium is somewhere around $4,500 a year. That would cover her for essentially $5,000 a month if she had a care event for a period of 4 years. And what I'll often hear from the consumers, even from advisors, is that they could do something with that annual premium. Instead of shifting it to an insurance company, they can invest it and help the client grow the money on their own to be able to cover a care event. And I'll always ask that we take a few steps back, that we think about, number one, we don't know when that care event might happen. It might be today, it might be 10 years from now, it might be 20 years from now. It might be never. This is all about planning and protection. So we have to, first off, take into mind that we may not have enough grow time if we were just to invest our money and try to grow it with some interest to help cover a care event. Again, $4,000, $4,500 a year in premium to get $5,000 a month in benefit. When we look at those numbers and we factor them out and say, okay, what would a client have to do if they were earning 4% after tax? What would a client have to do to be prepared to create a benefit pool equivalent to what they'd have if they in fact protected themselves with some long-term care insurance? So we're going to use an average pool of about $420,000. For an individual who's purchasing a long-term care plan with $420,000 of a benefit pool, not at age 60, but at age 80, because remember, you're buying today, you probably won't need it for another 20 years. Do you know that the 60-year-old client would actually have to save today over $180,000 in single premium, or over $13,000 a year for the next 20 years to get to that dollar amount?
That surprises me.
Soak that in.
Okay, let me soak it in by saying, okay, and you just said something that just was kind of revolutionary in my mind. I think I had a revelation, and maybe a small epiphany. You said, we're not talking about this. We're buying it at 60. We're really talking about using this
That's right.
15, 20 years from now. I think that concept just makes everybody go, wow, I need to keep track of this.
That's right.
And this is going to be online. I may not see the use of this for 10 to 15 years.
True. And so you need something that's going to grow along with you. And when we talk to the consumer, to the advisor who says, I can do something with that premium instead of purchasing an insurance solution, I can do something with that premium and we'll be able to grow it. Think about those numbers. $13,000 a year would have to be set aside today and every year for the next 20 years, earning 4% after tax to purchase the same benefit pool that I could have with one premium payment today.
I'm not aware, I could be wrong on this, but I'm not aware of anything in the market that's pulling 4% after tax without a beta risk to it.
True.
Just there's one issue right there.
But this is the thought process,
Yes.
Steve. This is where the financial impact has to be explained, and the consumer and the advisor truly need to just be aware of what happens when we talk about financial impact of a care event.
We come back from the break. We're going to continue talking about the economic impact of all this and why LTC is an essential part of retirement planning. It's not how much money you make for your clients, it's how much money they get to keep, especially in retirement. But retirement income could cause Social Security benefits to be taxed. One tax advantage alternative is life insurance designed as a non-modified endowment contract that can generate tax-free income without taxing Social Security benefits. These contracts offer differing funding options depending upon your client's risk tolerance. For more information on how life insurance can be part of your retirement planning, just email me at steve@downtobusiness.tv. Brought to you by Ash Brokerage, the practice enhancement company. Well, welcome back to our second segment. We're talking about how the impact of a long-term care event can really hit you hard. And I want to just redux what we talked about here, because we were talking about using a 3% inflation on a premium number. I think you said your premium was $2,500.
$4,500.
$4,500, I'm sorry. And we were going all the way out. Not today. This is where I think we kind of get lost. The impact of that number is going to be when we use it, which is going to be out there around 80.
Correct.
So all of a sudden that number of 4,500 with a 3% inflation grew all the way out to $40,000 plus.
Yeah. So when you look at this scenario for a 60-year-old female, and her premium is $4,500 a year, so it's a 3% cost of living adjustment. Today's dollars, that creates a long-term care benefit pool of about $240,000. That's today at age 60. I want to fast forward to 80. My benefit pool is going to be somewhere around $430,000, $440,000. And what the explanation of the economic impact is that if that individual is creating that big $400,000 benefit pool 20 years from now, what would she have to do with that premium of $4,500 a year today? What would it have to earn? What would that number need to be in order to get to that same benefit pool 20 years from now?
Well, if she's paying $4,500, you're looking at 50 grand for every 10 years. You're looking at probably 100,000, a little over 100,000 plus. You're trading that for $440,000 benefit.
True.
So when I'm looking at that, I'm just going to look at the economics of it, and everybody that can crunch an HP12C is going to do the same thing I just did in my head, which is look at a 4% after tax, as I talked about earlier. Beta risk is everything here, and we're not going to get a number that doesn't really create some kind of a risk with that. Now, I want to bring up this thing. I want to go over the economic impact. So let's say I understand that this economic impact is there, and let's say even say I have family history that says I am going to use a facility in some form, either at my home or I'm going to actually have to go into a nursing home when I'm really older. But when I look at those numbers and I start to say, okay, those numbers, I'm indemnifying my lifestyle. It's not just indemnifying when I need the money for my long-term care. I don't want to worry about this.
That's right.
I want to enjoy my 20, 30 years of retirement.
Peace of mind.
I don't want to be sitting there doing what you just said is I have to park 13 grand every year at whatever rate you told me.
That's right.
I don't want to be doing that.
That's right.
I want to be actually enjoying my retirement. And then if this event occurs, which the odds are high, the high probability rate will happen, I want to be able to just say that number's now 440 grand.
This is the power of planning, Steve. This is the message that we're trying to send. You can't look at this and think about the client at age 60. It really needs to be what happens when she's likely to need this care at age 80.
I'm kind of a person that always feels like my money should work for me. You know what I'm saying? It should work hard for me. I don't want me to work hard for. I've already done that.
Yeah.
I want my money now to be leveraged.
Don't you think most people think that way?
I think if you tell them, do you want your money to work hard for you, or do you want to still continue to put $13,000 aside? See, there's the trade-off. I mean, I'm doing the math in my head. If I'm putting $13,000 aside to make sure I created that number when I need it at $440,000, that's going to take a lot off of my monthly income.
Of course.
That's going to take money away from me and do the things I want to do. I'm looking at that number, right, with some risk, I'd have to say, compared to, hey, I have a laydown, I have a $4,500 premium, I know what I'm getting, and I've made my money work for me for that benefit that accumulated. That's how I think.
It's the leverage factor. And we'll talk about that in future segments on the show, because leverage is really vitally important to this whole process.
We still have arguments not coming from the client. I want us to talk a little bit about the self-insured theology of advisors. I mean, they think this way, right?
Yeah.
Some of our audience are going to say, Steve, I heard what you said. It was compelling. It had a little math to it. But honestly, said and done, a lot of my upper middle class and affluent clients are just going to invest.
So let's talk about what happens when that care event occurs. A few segments ago, you heard me suggest that an advisor sit down with someone to explain what the options are, right? Help them to understand leveraging the financial impact. And if they choose after all of that to simply own everything, to self-insure all of it, it's important, in my opinion, that the advisor be able to document that they've done so, because when the event happens, it's not the client that's going to come calling, it's the spouse or the children. And in today's day and age, with filial laws growing the way they are, it is truly important that the advisor protect his or her own practice to show the family members that they had the conversation, that the loved one chose to self-insure all of the risk, because ultimately it will now come down to spend down or liquidation of assets to cover those costs.
I'm wondering if the caregivers, and which generally are the beneficiaries of the estate, care about their money going to that $13,000 a year to invest. Maybe I'll make that money, or should I leverage it with $4,500?
Yeah.
I wonder if they care about that.
They should, and it's a fair question, because it's ultimately their inheritance. It's ultimately the care that the financial advisor provided to their loved one. And we'll talk later on about what we see as repetitious relationship, right? Are the children of this client often working with their mom and dad's financial advisor? I think you'll be surprised at the answer.
Well, that's all the time we have for today. Remember, before moving forward with any of the ideas on our show, always consult your tax advisor, legal counsel, or your broker-dealer compliance officer. Missed an episode? Just go out to our video archives. And remember, you could be wiser as an educated advisor. I'm Steve Savant. We'll see you tomorrow.